Ma ba'd. Yesterday we read the waqia of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam and Bilqis, the queen of Saba, and how Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, it's proven from this verse, from this ayah, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَأُ أَيُّكُمْ يَأْتِينِي بِعَرْشِهَا قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتُونِي مُسْلِمِينَ. When Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam announced to his army that who will go and bring the arsh, he also said that who will bring the arsh of Bilqis to me before she comes to me submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, he had been given the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Bilqis will come to you as a Muslim, as a Muslimah, accepting and submitting to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Bilqis, she had the knowledge that Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam is a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before she even reached Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam in his palace. How? Because she recognized that if he was to accept the gift that she sent, then he is a Nabi of Allah. And if he is to reject it, then he is a ordinary king like us, ordinary leader like us. If he was to
accept the gift, then he is ordinary.
If he was to accept it, then he's an ordinary king. If he was to reject it, then he is a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam do? He rejected it. So she had come to find out from this that he is a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when she arrived to Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam presented the mu'jiza of bringing the arsh from miles and miles away. And that is when she accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Rabb and accepted Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam and did tawbah from her previous sins. The waqiyah that we started of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam when he was in his youth, before going up against Fir'aun. And we talked about how Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, when he was still in Misr, then he killed a Fir'auni, a kafir. And Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he then decided to leave. He decided to leave Misr and go to Madian, where Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam was living. A great Nabi of Allah. A great Nabi of Allah was living in Madian. But Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he is leaving Misr for the first time. And he does not recognize the way. He does not recognize the way, and during this journey from Misr to Madian, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam has nothing to eat. He has nothing to eat. So during this journey, all he ate was the leaves that he found on the trees and whatever vegetables and fruits that he found on the grass. That's all he ate from. And during his journey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the malaika, the angels, to show him the way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the path was made easy for him. He was shown the way by the malaika. So when he reached Madian, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that he reached a well. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam reached a well, and he found that there's a large group of men that are with their animals, and they are giving their animals, their camels, their goats, their cows, all of their animals, they're allowing them to drink from that well. There's a large crowd by this well. And Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he also sees that there are two young women who are standing aside, away from that large crowd. They're standing away from that large crowd of men. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he asks them that, why don't you take your animals to the well? Those two women had animals with them and they're aside. So Musa alayhi salam asked them that, why don't you take your animals by to the well so that they can drink? So the women, they respond that we do not want to go in that large crowd of men. We are the only woman here, and all of the people there are men. We do not want to go into that large crowd, right, out of shame. And our father is a sheikh, he is a grown old man. So we have the responsibility of feeding and giving our animals drink. There's no man in our family who can take the animals. So what we do is we wait for this large crowd of men to leave, and once they leave, the remaining water, the little bit of water that is remaining, that is left, we feed that to our animals. We give that to our animals. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he felt for these two young women. And so what he did was he saw that there was another well close by, but there was a huge boulder that was on top of that well. And Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he went to that well and he picked up that boulder all by himself. That multiple men together could not pick up. That's why none of the people from the men were there, because a large group of them could not pick up that boulder, that huge rock from the well. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam picked that up, removed it, and he took the animals from the woman and he gave them water. So this is mentioned that after Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam did this favor for the young woman, then those women, they rushed to their home. They rushed with their animals to their home and they told their father that there was a very pious and righteous man who was helping us, who did us a huge favor by feeding our animals. And that is why we have come so quick. Usually they would wait for the large crowd to leave, and so their father would notice that they were taking a long time, but this time they came very quick. So they rushed and they told their father that there was a righteous man who helped us feed our animals. So the father said to the woman that, go and bring that man here. That man who did this favor for you, bring him to me. So one of them, the eldest sister from them, by the name of Safura, she went and she rushed back to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and told him that our father wants to invite you to his house. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam had been given the knowledge that this father is Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam. This father is Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, the father of those two young women. So when Sayyida Safura is inviting Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam that our father wants to invite you, so Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he agreed not to receive something from Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam for the favor that he did. Not to receive any wage or any money for the favor that he did by feeding his animals. But he accepted the invitation to meet the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he goes to the house of Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, and the way that he goes, that is mentioned in the Tafsir, is that there is a woman, the daughter of Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, Safura, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. So during the journey, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam tells her that you stand behind me and tell me the way. I will stay in front of you. This was the ihtimam, the arrangement for parda that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam made. That you stand behind me, I will walk and you guide me, you tell me the way. So they get to the house and Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, he has this food, this da'wah prepared. And this was, again, when Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam had not eaten. It had been a whole week, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, nothing had went inside the blessed stomach of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. He is hungry. And he makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for food. So he goes to Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, and Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam has this food prepared for Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And so he tells him that sit down and eat. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he says, A'udhu billah. And he first rejects that I will not sit and eat. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam asks him that why? He says that I'm feeling that this food that you have prepared, this da'wah that you have prepared, it is as a wage for me, it is a payment for me that you are paying me for feeding your animals. And we Anbiya, we do not accept this. For any amal khair, for any good deed, we do not expect anything in return. We do not expect any wage or any payment in return. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam told him that no, this is the way of my ancestors. And this is my way that we host our guests. We invite individuals and we host them. And you are a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is not as a payment for feeding our animals for that favor. This is just food that is presented to a Nabi of Allah. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he eats. And after they eat, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, or while they are eating, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he narrates to Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam his stories, meaning from his birth, the miraculous birth of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and the corruption of Fir'aun that he is spreading. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَصَّ عَلَيْهِ الْقَصَص. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam presented to him the stories. That is why this surah is called Surah Al-Qasas. And Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam is telling all of his life story, his background to Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, and telling him how he killed a man and he rushed to Madian to escape the corruption of Fir'aun. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam says that قَالَ لَا تَخَفْ, that do not fear Fir'aun, do not be afraid of Fir'aun. And after he said and narrated all of these waqiyat to Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, one of the daughters, that same daughter who went to get Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam from the well, Sayyidah Safura, she says that إحدى يا أبت استجره إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. One of the daughters, that same daughter, Sayyidah Safura, she says to Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, her father, that, "O father, let's hire this individual, let's hire Musa alayhi salam so that he can graze our animals." Why? Because he is a very strong man. So the daughter, Sayyidah Safura, she told Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam that he is so strong that we saw him pick up a rock that 10 men could not pick up. And he picked it up all by himself. So let's hire him so that he is a very righteous, he is a pious man, he is a strong man. He will graze our animals for us so that we would not have to, us women would not have to go and do it. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, he offered Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, قَالَ إِنِّي أُرِيدُ أَنْ أُنْكِحَكَ إِحْدَى بْنَتَيَّ هَاتَيْنِ عَلَىٰ أَنْ تَأْجُرَنِي ثَمَانِيَ حِجَجٍ. Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam offered Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam that, "O Musa, perform nikah with this daughter of mine, and the mahr for this nikah, the mahr for this marriage will be that you graze our animals and that you serve us for eight years." The mahr for the nikah would be that you serve us and our animals for 8 years. فَإِنْ أَتْمَمْتَ عَشْرًا فَمِنْ عِنْدِكَ. And if you want to do 10 years, then that is from you. That is your choice. So the mahr that Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam is presenting is serving him and his animals for 8 years. And if you want to do 10, then that is your choice. Meaning that's not wajib upon you. That is not part of the mahr. That is just a favor from you if you decide. So this was a nikah that was being presented, an offer of nikah that was being presented to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam accepted that this is a daughter of a Nabi, Sayyidah Safura. So he accepts the nikah, but first he grazes their animals for 10 years. He chooses the 10-year option as the mahr, and he does that. And after the 10 years of service, Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam tells his daughter, Sayyidah Safura, that present to him a asa, give him a staff. And so Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, he had a large collection of asa, large collections of staff that were passed down from the Anbiya Kiram, that he attained an inheritance. And from that large collection of the staffs, the canes, Sayyidah Safura radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she chose the staff of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam that he received from Jannah. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, he took that from his daughter and gave it and presented that to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. This staff that belonged to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and was given to him from Jannah. Then the marriage, after the nikah, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he gets ijazah, permission from Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, that give me permission to go back to Misr. Give me permission to leave Madian and go back to Misr. So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam gives him permission. And during the journey back to Misr, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he reaches a place, min janib al-Tur. He reaches the mountain of Tur. And he sees near that Tur, near the mountain of Tur, that there is a fire, a huge fire that is lit. In the middle of nowhere, a huge fire. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he tells Sayyidah Safura that fire over there, I will go over there and I will see. Why? Because we are traveling this journey, and I do not know exactly where to go. So I will go to that fire. Maybe there is someone over there who can help us. And maybe I can bring some heat from that fire for you, because it is cold. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he goes, and that is where he hears the call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Inni ana Allahu Rabbul Alameen. That it is me, I am Allah, the Rabb of all the world. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam recognized that this fire in the middle of nowhere, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not that there were other travelers, other people who lit a fire for their protection, for their source of heat. This was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he commanded him that take your staff and throw it. This was the first time, or this was the initial time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the miracle to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, that he threw the staff and it turned into the huge serpent. And the miracle of Yad Bayda. During this journey from Madian to Misr, that is when they were granted to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and then he continued the journey to Misr. And the rest of the waqiyah we have heard and we have read. Surah Al-Rum, the 30th surah of the Quran Sharif. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this surah, he announces that Ghulibat al-Rum. He reveals to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Romans have been defeated. This was regarding a battle, a fight between the Romans and the Persians. And the Persians in that time, they were fire worshippers. They worshipped other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were among the mushrikeen, the Persians. And the Romans, they were from the Ahlul Kitab. They were Christian. And they had a fight, they had a battle, and Rome was defeated. The Romans were defeated. Ghulibat al-Rum. So when the Romans were defeated, the mushrikeen of Makkah, they said to the mu'mineen of Makkah that just how our mushrik brothers from the Persians have defeated the Ahlul Kitab, who are your brothers, that is exactly how we would defeat you in a battle. So they would say this to the believers, to the mu'mineen, to the Sahaba Ikram, that just how our mushrikeen brothers in Persia defeated your Ahlul Kitab brothers in Rome, we would defeat you in that same manner. So they would mock the mu'mineen in this manner. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبهم سيغلبون. That after this defeat, after the Romans are defeated, soon they would be dominant. Meaning there would be another battle between the Romans and the Persians, and the Romans will be dominant in that battle. They would defeat the Persians. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing this. في بضع سنين, in just a few years. In a few years you would see that the Romans will not stay defeated. There will be another battle and they would defeat the Persians. في بضع سنين لله الأمر من قبل ومن بعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the authority from before and after. Meaning, the first battle in which the Persians were dominant, in which the Persians were victorious, that was from the Amr of Allah. And this battle that will happen in the future in 3 to 9 years. The Mufassirun, they mentioned that fi bid'i sinin, in few years, what is meant by this is 3 to 9 years. At a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 3, you will see that the Romans will defeat the Persians. When these ayat were revealed, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala, and he went to the kuffar of Makkah, he went to the mushrikeen of Makkah, and he announced that your victory is not for long. meaning the victory of the Persians over the Romans is not for long. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has announced that the Romans will defeat the Persians. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, he announced this to the kuffar and said that if that battle that occurs in the future, if the Romans are dominant, or when the kafir, the mushrik Ubay bin Khalf, when he heard of this announcement that Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq is making, then a deal was made with Ubay bin Khalf, the kafir, that if the Romans defeat the Persians, meaning if the Ahlul Kitab defeat the Mushrikeen, then Ubay bin Khalf will give Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq 100 camels. And if the Persians, the fire worshippers, defeat the Romans, then Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala will give Ubay bin Khalf 100 camels. So this agreement was set. And this was before gambling had been made prohibited. This was before gambling and betting had been made prohibited. So this agreement was set. And it was seen that within 9 years, the battle happened, the battle occurred. The Romans defeated the Persians. The Romans defeated the Persians, and Ubay bin Khalf had died by that time. And so from his offspring, from his children, they took 100 camels and gifted and gave that to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. And Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam commanded Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq that these camels that you have received from Ubay bin Khalf, from his virasa, give it in sadaqah. Give it in charity. Do not keep that for yourself. Give that in sadaqah. And that same year that the Romans defeated the Persians, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted victory to the mu'minun over the kuffar in the battle of Badr. So there were two moments of joy and happiness for the mu'minun. Two victories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted. One between the Romans defeating the Persians, the Ahlul Kitab defeating the Mushrikeen, and one in the battle of Badr, in which the mu'minun defeated the kuffar. And we talked about the battle of Badr briefly, inshallah. And we will continue to look at these ayat, and we will talk about some more waqiyat that are mentioned in Surah Al-Rum and Surah Luqman as well, inshallah. From tomorrow we will continue. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد معدن الجود والكرم وآله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد معدن الجود والكرم وآله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. صلاة والسلام.
मुस्तफ़ा जाने रहमत पे लाखों सलाम, शमाए बज़ में हिदायत पे सलाम, फ़तह बाबे नबूवत पे बेहद दुरूद, फ़तह बाबे नबूवत पे बेहद दुरूद, फ़तह बाबे नबूवत पे बेहद दुरूद, ख़त्म दौरे रिसालत पे लाखों सलाम, मुस्तफ़ा पे लाखों सलाम, शमाए बज़ में हिदायत पे लाखों सलाम, पतली पतली गोले कुद्स की पतियाँ, उन लबों की नज़ाकत पे लाखों सलाम, शहर यारे इरम ताजदारे हरम, नौबा हारे शफाअत पे लाखों सलाम, पारा ہائے صحف غنچہ قدس اہل بیت رسالت پہ سلام جانے ساران بدر و احد پر درود جانے ساران بدر و احد پر درود حق گزارا نے بیعت پہ لاکھوں سلام مصطفیٰ لاکھوں سلام شمع بز میں ہدایت پہ لاکھوں سلام میرے استاذ ماں باپ بھائی بہن اہل ولد و عشیرت پہ لاکھوں سلام غوث اعظم امام تو غوث اعظم امام تو والنقا جلوہ شان لاکھوں سلام کاش محشر میں جب ان کی آمد ہو اور بھیجے سب ان کی شوکت پہ لاکھوں سلام مجھ سے خدمت کے قدسی کہے ہاں رضا مجھ سے خدمت کے قدسی کہیں ہاں رضا مصطفیٰ جانے لاکھوں سلام شمع بز میں ہدایت پہ لاکھوں سلام الصلاة والسلام علیک یا رسول اللہ وعلی آلک واصحابک یا سیدی یا خاتم الانبیاء والمرسلین اللہم ربنا تقبل منا هذه الصلاة والسلام على نبینا صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم واجعل آخر کلامنا لا الہ الا اللہ محمد رسول اللہ